Hey, LarkenRose here. I saw 3 separate, kind of unrelated videos in the last couple of days, and they all reminded me of the same thing, so I'm going to make a video about all 3 of them. The first, I'm sure you've all heard of the stabbing that happened in Walmart in Michigan, I believe it was, where like 11 people got stabbed. And finally, a thing that it didn't bother mentioning in the first story I read about it, it was stopped by a brave policeman. No, it wasn't. It was stopped by some random guy with a gun who also had the balls to do something. He didn't just hide in the distance having a gun. He came forward and stopped them. And apparently somebody else helped him, but he was the guy with the gun, so he's probably the guy who made the most difference. So good for that guy. I think it was Derek. Somebody or other. Sorry, I already forget the name. But that's sort of the theme of the video today, because ruling classes train the people to be pansies. They train us to be wusses. They train us to think that, oh, we should never have to resort to violence and force. Call the authorities. Now, how often did everybody hear that growing up in school? Like, if there's a fight, both sides are in the wrong. What a profoundly idiotic, insane, and destructive message to give to children. The idea that defending yourself is just as bad as attacking somebody. No, it isn't, you dumbasses. But the purpose of that dumbass message is to train people to rely on authority and to keep them as wussy children who it never occurs to them. Maybe it's up to you to defend the innocent, whether it's defending yourself or defending somebody else. And this is largely now a population of absolute pansies, who the most they might do is aim their phone at something while somebody's being abused. Thankfully, there are exceptions, like the guy who finally stopped stabbing a guy in Walmart. And Walmart, of all places, a guy with a knife. It's not even a guy with a gun. Literally, there's 100 products in Walmart that I and plenty of other people who aren't we're not John Wick, but I could easily have, I saw that guy, I could easily have taken him out with 100 different products in Walmart. So the main factor was not, well, we didn't have the equipment to do it. It's people didn't have the mentality and the attitude of grown-ups. Because grown-ups realize, yeah, reality is kind of our problem. If something bad is happening, we have to do something. If you sit around waiting for authority to show up and save the day, 1, you're an idiot. 2, they're not going to show up and save the day. And 3, you just failed your duty to humanity by being a wuss. Now, we've been trained to be wusses by schools, like I just said, by the media all over the place, because it's always, oh, better call the authorities. Something is going on, call the authorities. So that's trained into people all over the place. And that makes the people helpless against common thugs. Unless somebody says, no, I'm going to actually stop this. Now, a very direct, obvious way that the state does that is by way of gun control, where they're trying to disarm the population. And then, well, now if there's a bad guy with a gun, we made sure all the good guys don't have guns. So now you have to whine to Big Daddy government to show up 20 minutes later to shoot your dog and do a chalk outline of your dead body, because they don't show up in time despite all the bullshit in Hollywood. They're not going to do shit to stop any of these. They almost never do, but random armed people actually do. And sometimes random not armed people do, because the thing that matters first and foremost is the mentality that, holy crap, there's some guy harming innocent people. Well, whose problem is that? Yours, dumbass! If you're a grown-up, it's your problem. And one of the most amazing things is watching liberals talk with disgust and disdain about those of us who carry firearms. Oh, you think you're going to be the big hero? Well, at least I'm going to have the ability to do something while you hide in a corner like a spineless pansy, taking pride in the fact that you're a helpless, useless wuss. And it's so weird that they literally try to make it a virtue that they're just easy targets and helpless victims. And sometimes it comes out as, I would never resort to using force against blah, 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 blah. So you would just stand there and watch an innocent person suffer because you don't have the equipment or the physical ability or the mental ability to say, all right, shit's hitting the fan. It's time for me to go do something about it. And that attitude is sadly lacking as a result of many decades of indoctrination in that direction. Now, you may think I made this video just to bash the left. Not so. You may think that, well, the conservatives, they want us to be rugged individualists, and they believe in the Second Amendment, kind of, sort of, sometimes on occasion. So at least you're not talking about them. I'm absolutely talking about them, and I'll tell you why. So second story. I think this was local Arizona news. I don't know if it went national because it's not even a story. It's not an event. The only thing noteworthy is how spineless and stupid the cops were. So from the story, now there may be other details that make it less ridiculous, but from the story, there was a guy in Phoenix. He was in his car with it running, probably because it's 110 stinking degrees here and he wants the air conditioner on so he doesn't stink and die while he takes a nap. He's asleep in his car while it's running, not on a road, like parked somewhere. And the cops come up and they see a gun visible somewhere in the car. He's not even holding it. It's just visible in the car. Now, I know a lot of people who are unfamiliar with guns will go, a guy with a gun, because you've been trained to be pansies. Lots of people who live in Arizona will have the proper response, which is, well, I've done that. Now, I usually don't have my gun somewhere you can see it in the car. But yeah, I'll take a nap with the air conditioner. In fact, I just did that up in Flagstaff. Wasn't even actually armed at the time. Took a nap with the air conditioning running, parked somewhere, waiting for somebody to show up. And this guy had a gun in view. So these spineless Nazi morons call in SWAT. In case this needed to be explained, there's nothing illegal in Arizona about having a gun and having it in your car and taking a nap in your car with the air conditioner on, with the car running. If you have the air conditioner on and the car's not running, you'll wake up to a dead battery, and that will suck, especially if it's 110 outside, which it has been. I saw the headline, I was like, they're not that dumb. And I read the story, they were that dumb. It wasn't that he threatened somebody or was parked in a suspicious, it was literally the entire reason that I think they even evacuated some people from the area and called in SWAT. Because there's a guy taking a nap in his car and there's a gun visible next to him. You Nazi shits. Now, first of all, the mentality to do that, the mentality of the police, who, by the way, carry guns. Like, they look down on people that much. One of the slaves has a gun. Quick, call in SWAT. That is the mentality that they want the ruling class to have, and that is the mentality they want the peasants to have. Well, us mere peasants shouldn't have firearms and be allowed to, like, nap in our car for a second. Holy crap. So they called in SWAT and arrested the guy. For what? Now, I haven't heard the follow-up to the story. And like I said, if there was something that came first, like, well, he was walking around drunk threatening people, okay? But if that had been the story and they knew it, that would have been part of the story. And the people writing the story, the fact is, like, he was asleep in his car with the car running and he had a gun. Good grief. But you see the condescension and the disdain they have for us mere peons, us peasants. How dare he have a firearm? First of all, it's Arizona. A crap ton of people have firearms and carry them regularly, including me. You don't even need a carry permit to carry one if you're an adult. I think you're not allowed to be a felon or something. But you can carry it concealed or openly, no permit, no anything in Arizona. So the fact that this was a story and they called in SWAT, oh my God. Like if I was walking along and there's a guy in Arizona and there's a guy taking a nap in his car with the engine running, unless I think he's dead or something, I was like, oh, well, the engine's running so he doesn't die of heat exhaustion. He has a gun, okay? I go about my merry way because that's just called life. You may say, well, the gun rights Republicans are going to say this was an outrage that you harassed him for that. Except the ones who are so used to bootlicking that they're like, well, he probably should have. In the story, what they reported, he didn't do anything he shouldn't have. Now, if you have your gun in plain view in the car, I would have the doors locked, which he may very well have. I don't know that he didn't. Just so somebody can't just open it and steal your gun. Otherwise, nothing in that story justifies even a cop going, ding, ding, hey, buddy, what's going on? Much less, oh my God, run away and call SWAT because there's a normal person doing a normal thing. Holy shit, the mentality of these people. But let's get to the third one. Because, yeah, the Democrats absolutely want us helpless against common thugs so that we have to cry to the ruling class, help, come save us, because we can't possibly defend ourselves. Because the idea of a peasant having a gun should make you absolutely crap your pants and run off and tell SWAT about it. But in case you thought I was going to be nice to the conservatives are every bit as much in favor of having you be a spineless frickin' wuss. The difference is, if you're attacked by a common thug and you defend yourself, they go, rah, 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 yeah, independent, rugged individualism. But if you get assaulted by a stupid thug with a badge, the biggest spineless bitches around are conservatives who will cheer for the thug. And that brings us to our third video. So I saw the video that I believe was recorded from inside the car, and there's this guy, obviously a little bit annoyed. He's not mad, he's not yelling, he's just talking. There's some piggies outside his window. He was driving, he's not now. And he's like, why did you pull me over? Something about headlights not being on in the fog or some frickin' thing. And they're like, yeah, I've come over now. So he's sitting there just like, and just totally like no malice in his face. I mean, malice and anger would have been absolutely justified. There wasn't even that. It was just like, what? I'm just kind of amazed that I'm sitting here and you won't really tell me why you pulled me over and you changed your story. And no, I don't want to come out. They smash his window and then immediately punch him in the face. He's sitting there like this. He's not resisting. He's not fighting. And one of those Nazi fuckers reaches through and just punches him square in the face. When he's like this, with this expression, he's like, what? After they broke his window, punch him in the face, open the door, drag him out. Okay, so police abuse. Now, as always happens, the spineless pansies who call themselves conservatives, who are all rough and cool and tough when it comes to private thugs, immediately went into ass-kissing mode. Well, the police, you don't know the whole story because, oh my God, masters, yes, officer, we'll be wusses for you. Fucking pansies. So I saw a couple conservative pansies making a video about this. And I thought, okay, I wonder what they're going to say. Will they have enough spine to say, yeah, that's really not okay in a free country? Like pulled over for not having your headlights on and it turns into that? Both of these conservatives said, aha, we obtained body cam footage of what happened before that, which is what they always harp on. Okay, well, did he have a shootout with them? Because I found it sort of hard to imagine that any context would make it okay to, when there's a guy like this at his steering wheel, break his window, punch him in the face, and then violently drag him out. Okay, let's see the context. I was like, well, was it like a high-speed chase and a shootout and a... Why were they so revved up? Why were they so violent? Well, it turns out they pulled him over, and he opened his door and he was talking to them and said, why did you pull me over? And then he or they said something about lights on in the fog. You have to have your lights on in the inclement weather or some bullshit excuse for them being road pirates. And he was it said something about like that isn't why you pulled me over or something. They're like, you get out of the car right now. And he's like, I want to see your supervisor. He showed attitude. He didn't immediately grovel and beg forgiveness from the king's guards like all you pussy-ass conservatives think he should have. Because you're just as much spineless bitches as the Democrats who want you disarmed. Because you know what? You're not a threat to the state if you're armed, if you kiss the ass of the state when it abuses people, which you fucking do. You are every bit the pansies that the Democrats are. The difference is you're even worse, because when it comes to private thugs, you recognize the value and the virtue in normal people being able to defend themselves against thugs. But when it comes to your political masters, you're first in line to praise the slave overseer who whips the others. That slave didn't do as he told, so he deserved it. And to watch any supposed conservatives make excuses for that. The guy showed a little bit of attitude, like, I don't want to come out and I want to talk to your supervisor. Why did you pull me over? Not a threat, not a fight, not even resisting, and then he closes his door, and then it happened. The fact that at least a couple of conservatives, I'm sure it was a hell of a lot more than a couple, I just saw a couple and that's all I could stomach. Well, you didn't go along with what the officer said. That's because they were acting like grown-ups instead of like fucking slaves, which is what conservatives want you acting like when confronted by thugs who also happen to have badges. So yeah, no, conservatives don't want us rugged and independent freedom fighters either. They want us bootlicking pansies. Because the idea that somebody not having their lights on in the fog when some jackbooted moron thinks that would have been a little bit safer, and some politician somewhere scribbled a thing that says if someone's driving in the fog without these lights on, you can threaten them with violence with your yellow and blue or red and blue lights, and then pull them over and steal some money from him and call it a citation or a ticket. Anyone who thinks that those violent fascist aggressors were the good guy is a mental pansy and a slave. Anyone making excuses for what those pigs did is just as much a wuss as the biggest gun-grabbing leftist in the world. And the fact that, well, I would defend myself against a thug without a badge, but if the massa sends his enforcers, oh, you gotta bow. You gotta bow and kiss the feet and, oh, pray. Don't you dare raise your voice against one of the master's enforcers. God, you pathetic wusses. And I was a conservative for a long time. I don't think I was that big a pathetic wuss. I'm sure I leaned in the direction of wanting the cops to be the good guys. I wanted to believe that. It was bullshit. For a pretty long time, I did believe that. I liked cop shows and all these brave movies and stuff about the police saving the day because I was young and delusional and didn't know how reality worked. But even then, there'd be a line at which I'd go, okay, that was not okay. Like, I'll go rah, rah, rah if some guy with a badge takes down, like, a serial killer or a, like, child predator. Which, by the way, right now, they're just defending and covering for. Bongino, Patel, Bondi, you spineless evil shits. I'd be all rah, rah, rah for stopping actual bad guys. I don't even think in my most zealous statist mode, back when I was totally, like, conservative-leaning statist, I would have gone rah, rah, rah about smashing a window, punching someone in the face, and dragging out of his car because he was questioning why he was being stopped for not having the right headlights on in the fog. That's a level of bootlicking, pathetic spinelessness that I don't think I ever reached. And I was pretty bad. I was absolutely a statist. I made an excuse for lots of things because I wanted that to be the reality. I don't think I was ever that bad. Which means conservatives today are bigger pansies than, at least as far as I can recall, than the ones back when I was one 7,000 years ago. I gave up statism in 1996, so it's been a while. But the difference is the left wants us helpless against common thugs and against state thugs. The right wants us bravely defending against common thugs and then being helpless and subservient and obedient and absolutely spineless when it comes to the thugs that are way more of a threat to humanity, which is thugs of the state. Because conservatives, or a hell of a lot of people who pretend to be conservatives, do not have the attitude of free grown-ups. They have the attitude of house slaves. Well, yeah, we'll stop this slave from hitting that slave, but if the massa tells us to do something, you bunch of frickin' pansies. Anyone who watches that video and is on the side of the jackbooted thugs, you're just pathetic. You're just pathetic. You're not a grown-up. You're a spineless ass kisser of the worst people in the world. And it's pretty sad that that's the party that imagines itself to be pro-freedom. So yeah, both parties, both sides of the stupid political spectrum want us mere mortals to be helpless, especially against the state. And none of them want us to act like grown-ups. Because a grown-up, if some random thug you don't know comes along and says, hi, I'm going to assault you with this and that and the other thing, a grown-up says, no, you're not, and it's my job to stop you. And whether you have a badge or not makes no stinking difference. But conservatives don't have the brains or the balls or the spine to understand that last part because they're so busy licking the boots of the thugs who make them obey the masters and taking pride in that they don't notice they're just as big a bunch of spineless pansies as the people on the left who want to disarm everybody. Because if you have the machinery to defend against state thuggery, but you don't have the attitude, and you actually resent anybody who disobeys the thugs, quit yammering on about the Second Amendment. It doesn't stinking matter. You're kissing the ass of the master. The people being armed is no threat to the state if the armed people are enslaved up here. And conservatives are just as enslaved up here as liberals are. And it's a little bit frustrating to watch video after video of these supposedly pro-freedom people taking the side of these mindless, badge-wearing thugs randomly harassing people who weren't even accused of threatening or hurting anybody. You just didn't obey some random arbitrary command from the political parasites, so you deserve whatever happened to you because it's the law. And it annoys me extra when conservatives do it, because I used to be one. I don't think I was that bad, but I totally was a statist. I was totally a hypocrite. Totally made excuses for authoritarian thuggery. But even I have to look at modern conservatives and just say, you are a bunch of pansies. Everybody cheering for ICE, random detentions, no search warrant. You're just bootlicking imbeciles and a bunch of frickin' pansies. Why? Because I'm scared of immigrants. If anything, you're worse than the Democrats. Because you're like, we have to righteously defeat these people. Hey, Big Daddy government, save us from these people. Instead of actually having the mentality of a grown-up that says, yeah, if somebody's hurting somebody else, stop them by any means necessary. If they came from another country and they're hurting somebody else, stop them by any means necessary. If they were born here and they're hurting somebody else, stop them by any means necessary. Doesn't mean whine off to the ruling class to please exert thuggery against giant categories of people because you're too much of a pussy to be a grown-up. And that is most conservatives these days. And it's really pathetic to watch.